Hello, welcome back. Right, today we're here to have a little chat about the fact people like treating children as if they were, I don't want to say the word idiots, but I can't find another word. So people like to treat children as if they were idiots, and they're not. I have a story for you. Recently, my son, who is 8 years old, kind of came down with a fever, so a high temperature, which is fine. We don't worry about fevers because we understand it is a response from the body and it's fighting something, right? So we, meaning my husband and I, are not the kind of parents who freak out when the kid has a fever. We're just not, okay? However, we live in Brazil. And in Brazil, doctors and parents, especially mothers, completely freak out when the child has a fever. So the kid comes down with a fever and the parents and doctors and teachers at school are completely freaked out, thinking the child is going to have some sort of seizure. And this is it. We need to give them medicine straight away. We are not like that. Anyway, that's fine. I don't really care. Meaning, I don't really mind that people feel that way. So my son came down with a fever and there were a couple of other symptoms that were not so normal. So we were a little bit worried, which means we decided to drive Dominic, my son, to the ER, to hospital. ER stands for emergency room, which is where you go, the place where you go to in a hospital when you have an emergency. So you don't have an appointment, which means you're going to sit there and wait for a good 3 hours maybe, depending on the day and time. So my husband decides to drive Dominic to the ER. Really relieved about that because obviously we feel that there's something wrong with Dominic, so we want to make sure he's okay. He goes to the ER. We don't take our kids to the doctors or hospital often. We don't. We see things like bugs that children get all the time as something normal because it is in fact normal. They're kids, they're going to get lots of bugs. So we don't take them to see a doctor every time they have a fever or a cough or anything. We watch out for the symptoms and we analyze what's happening. You know, if our kids are still sleeping well, eating well, playing, then we know there's nothing major going on, right? Anyway, Dominic doesn't go to hospital often or the doctors often, so he's a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of having a blood test done, for example. You know, a blood test where you get blood out of your body. He doesn't love the idea of a blood test. Of course, who does, right? So on the way to hospital and when they were waiting to be seen by a doctor, I hope you're taking notes because I'm giving you really good structures today. Anyway, waiting to be seen by a doctor, my husband was talking to Dominic because we have always talked to our kids and explained things to them in a way that they will be able to understand depending on how old they are. But we are honest with them. You know, we don't treat them like idiots. So they're sitting there and my husband is, because Dominic's asking about a blood test. What does it feel like? Is it the same as a vaccine? Is it that kind of pain? And my husband was explaining that, look, it's just a little prick, you know, like what you feel when the needle goes in, just a little prick. But I feel that the blood test is not as bad as the vaccine. I think a vaccine or an injection in general is a little bit more painful than just a blood test. I agree, to be honest. So he's explaining all of this to Dominic. Honestly, clearly, just saying to him, if you need a blood test, we will do it, because if it's needed, it's needed. And Dominic is fine about that. He's not crying. He's not doing anything. He understands that if you have to do something, you have to do something. It's really quite simple. Anyway, it's finally time for them to be seen by the doctor, who was a lady. Eduardo said she was probably in her mid-40s, 45 or something like that. So she's got plenty of experience as a pediatrician, right? Hopefully. So they get into the room, and the first thing the doctor says to Dominic, seriously, you won't believe this. The first thing the doctor says to Dominic is, "Don't worry, I don't have a needle on me." Seriously? Let me explain this sentence. Don't worry, I don't have a needle. A needle is what you use for blood tests and injections, okay? It's what people don't like, needles. I don't have a needle on me. This means I don't have one in my pocket. I'm not going to give you an injection, basically. And she said, "Don't worry." She literally said, "Hello, don't worry, I don't have a needle on me," with her hands up like this. And Dominic didn't say anything. My husband didn't say anything. But we were discussing this, and my husband said, "It's so crazy that I had spent 20 minutes explaining to Dominic that if he needs a blood test, life is life, and he will have one." And he was fine about it. He was not crying. He was just trying to understand what the pain would be like. And the doctor comes in without knowing whether or not he would need to have any needles going in or not. Without knowing, she comes in and she says, "Don't worry, I don't have any needles on me." Basically, she's saying to him, "I know needles are bad and you should be scared of them, so don't worry because I don't have any." And that's a pediatrician. That's a doctor who specializes in treating children. I can't even hide my outrage. It's a good word, isn't it? My outrage is like the feeling I have, which is like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you're doing this." So, do you understand what I mean by people treating children like idiots? Don't do that to a kid, treat them well. Be honest with them. Tell them the truth. Tell them what to expect from a situation, truthfully. And don't make them feel scared for no reason. Like, people feel that they have to make kids scared of things that are just a part of life. Make them strong. Don't make them weak and scared of everything. Seriously. Anyway, it really feels good, guys, I have to say. Every time I come here, turn on the camera to tell you something that I'm completely outraged about, I feel so much better. I feel so much lighter. It really does feel good. Thank you. And I'm giving you an amazing listening practice with lots of words and structures about real life. So something that you might relate to, which is what we want, isn't it? So it's a win-win situation, isn't it? It's a win-win situation. You win because you're watching this video and learning lots of things, and I win because I'm getting it off my chest. Wow. So anyway, don't treat kids like idiots, okay? Thank you so much for being here today. See you all next time. Bye.